Back again on the Jack Doyle Podcast with the great Jack Doyle. I'm Matt Taylor, and we got a grumpy Jack Doyle today. We got to get you out of your funk.
Yeah.
I know it's been a couple of days, but you're still kind of salty, and I think we all are after the Colts' unfortunately latest loss, because they've lost 2 in a row, 3 of their last 4, but a 20-16 setback to the Houston Texans, man. I know you watched that game, and you were pretty upset, again, I use the word salty after.
Yeah.
The rest of your Sunday was pretty ruined after the Colts came up short in a big division game.
Yeah, Matt. It was okay. The first time I've watched a game post playing, and it really put me in a bad mood the rest of the day. That was when I was playing, that was always the deal. And I was just and I was just like, I was so frustrated. It was such a great opportunity. And man, some of the things that went down in the game, obviously added to it.
Right.
But yeah, it was a tough loss. You lose a home game, a home division game. It's a tough pill to swallow. But hey, we're 8-4 going to December football. Who wouldn't have taken that? We always flash back to training camp. Who wouldn't have taken that, Matt?
Right.
So we have a great opportunity in front of us, and let's go.
But I think the reason why you were upset, I was upset, I think most Colts fans were kind of miffed, is that yes, the Texans won the game, but again, as we always say, more games in the NFL are lost than won, and I think the Colts did more than their fair share to lose that game, right? Let's take them in order. You got on the 4th drive of the game, you're in inside the 10-yard line, you got a 4th and 1 at the 9, you got a missed snap, if you will, or a mishandled snap by Tyler Warren, ball goes squirting in the backfield, Jonathan Taylor picks it up, turnover on downs. You miss a PAT after your first touchdown. Then you had the cascade of boos in the early part of the 4th quarter with all of the, I don't know. Listen, was it a perfectly officiated game? No. The Texans got hosed. The Colts got hosed. It kind of evens out. There were some bad calls in that game. There's no question about it. You had some drop passes. Very uncharacteristic drops by Josh Downs. Yeah. There were plenty of things other than the officials that led to the Colts not being able to make the 4 to 5 to 6 plays that every game comes down to. Right?
Yeah, that's football, and it was kind of a, you throw in all those scenarios you just threw in. It was kind of a sloppy game, and both teams were, 2 good teams going at it, right? And a good Colts offense, a good Texans defense, and it's the back and forth. And we talked about earlier, maybe it's going to be a slow start, but you got to keep leaning on them. And when you have kind of miscues that normally, go your way, that aren't usually a part of your DNA, that makes it even tougher. And you don't want to get into the refs and we don't want to be the guys complaining about the refs, but some of those, the Kenny Moore one obviously comes to mind, and the pass interference call, that was a really tough call, and on a 3rd and 15 to get the automatic first down.
Yeah.
But yeah, as a player in those situations, you just try to, you got to move forward and control what you can control and try and go win the football game.
I want to go back. We're going to talk about everything in the big picture, but since we're talking about the officials, again, they weren't perfect. I think both teams benefited and got kind of jobbed out of some things throughout the course of that game.
Yeah.
But for you as a former player, did you ever feel like you really got hosed out of some calls? Whether that was a call against you or a call that should have gone on the defense when you were out there playing offense for the Colts?
It's hard to think. Obviously, there's calls that I didn't agree with. I've heard you guys have on the podcast, I've talked about holding calls that I don't think should be holding calls, and maybe I would say something to a ref there, here or there, but no, not truly jobbed. Like, I didn't lose a game because of a call. Like, I can't just say that ever happened, right? The refs are doing the best they can, and they have a hard, very, very difficult job in trying to call it, in live speed, and we get the benefit of replays and slowing it down and all that fun stuff. But yeah, when you feel that way as a player, it makes it tough. It really makes it tough.
Are you allowed to talk to the refs? How much dialogue can you have within the framework of just asking questions without being guilty of any sort of unsportsmanlike penalties, if you will?
Yeah, I would say early in my career, no, I didn't say anything. But later in my career, you start to get the same guys and you start to recognize them. And
it's a fraternity.
Yeah, and you start, it's always the umpire that makes a lot of the holding calls on the O lineman and the tight end. So I feel like I was always talking to that guy and being like, nope, that's wrong. That wasn't a holding. That guy wasn't trying to get off the block or things like that. But, you know, you don't say a lot and you try and butter them up and, you know, play all that fun game with them. But yeah, like I said, they have a tough job. They have a really tough job. And you know, they're always, you know, they don't get very much credit when they do a good job, right? They just get blamed.
It is their job to do it, right?
Right. I mean, that's what you want to say. But yeah, I don't feel like I talked a whole bunch, but maybe some refs would disagree.
Are they like guiding you out there? Are they coaching you up on what is a penalty and what's not? Where like the framework of where your hands are supposed to be? You talk about the holding penalties. Are they telling you, hey, you're outside of this area, they need to be here, or whatever the case is? Yeah,
so sometimes they will. Sometimes they just ignore you. But one thing they do is that you get them to come to training camp, and that's big. And they come to training camp and they spend a whole week with you, a few days with you, and they're like, we're an open book. Ask whatever questions you want. You know, talk to us about how you see certain plays, or, you know, for me a lot it was, you know, there's certain ways you can cut block, and a lot of times I was motioning and coming back and having to cut a D in, and I was making sure, you know, the ways
you're not allowed to come back towards the, what is it? You're not allowed to come back towards the box and cut?
Yeah, if you were outside the box, right? And so I'd always ask questions like, how do I, you know, make sure I'm set in the box by the snap? You know, does it have to be a one count? So there's a bunch of different things that I would, you know, pertain to me in particular that I would talk to them during training camp. And then, you do get an open dialogue with them, and so that's helpful going into a season.
Yeah, but that pass interference penalty on Kenny Moore, man. I mean, because I have been to every Colts game at Lucas Oil Stadium ever.
Yeah.
Okay, preseason, postseason. That's the loudest chorus of boos I've ever heard. And it was consistent. Like, it was 4 plays later. It was still going, man. Where were you with it?
Yeah, you could hear it through the TV. I was watching at home, but that was such a bad call. You know, just flat out. You know, like Kenny, there's a little bit of hand fighting there that's going on between both guys.
But isn't that every play?
That's every play.
Yeah.
As a tight end, you never. First thing I thought, you know how many times guys grab my arms at the top of a break, or like, you know, grab my wrist, or you're trying to snap their. I mean, that's football, and also.
But is that legal though? Are people doing that and getting away with it? Because you said it happens on every play.
Yeah.
They could call it every play, right?
Yeah, you call it legal contact every play. Like, I mean, we can go back to the 4th down that, you know, we tried to hit Pitt on the 4th and 9.
Stingley's on him.
Yeah, he runs right in. The guy runs right into him when Pitt's coming on his in breaker and throws off the timing. It's like, that's illegal contact. It's past 5 yards. Like, it's such a gray area, especially when you get into the legal contact discussion and what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. And again, but I feel like the refs usually do a good job of understanding the situation. Like, the Texans were trying to throw a 7-yard in breaker on 3rd and 15. Like, know that it's 3rd and 15. Yeah. Like, you're not calling ticky-tack stuff on 3rd and 15 when it's not close to the first down anyway.
And it's in the red zone too.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
And it's the
fourth quarter.
It's the fourth quarter.
Tie game.
Let them play.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
AFC South.
You let them play.
It, right?
You let them play on the 4th down later.
Right.
Like, it's the same guy looking at the same thing.
Yeah.
So why didn't you call that? You know, that's the frustrating part that we could go down the whole rabbit hole with. But again, you got to just, as a player and trying to bounce back and play the next play mentality, but that's really hard to do when you feel like it's, you know, it's going against you.
And then I think Colts fans really lost their minds on the PAT.
Yeah, that just added to it, right?
And I didn't see it in real time,
right?
Because I don't have the vantage point. I'm not behind the goalposts, right? So I just saw the kick fly through the air, and then they put their hands up. Maybe it's a PAT. Like 99% of them go through the uprights, right? Yeah. So like, I really didn't spend a whole lot of time on it. And then during the commercial break, I saw the replay, and I'm thinking, what in the heck is going on?
What's he looking at?
That is 3 key instances, or that sequence. You had a delay of game penalty that wasn't called, the pass interference, and then the drive continues for the Texans. So that's at least a 4-point swing, and then possibly a 5-point swing because the PAT that wasn't good was called good through the uprights. I mean, I think that's why Colts fans just look at this game and they're like, oh my gosh, what could have been? And you're still right there and you only lose by 4 points.
Yeah, I mean, there's only one person who saw that PAT and had the perfect vantage point of it.
That was the guy underneath it.
Was the guy underneath it. And it's like, I don't know how you didn't see, what's the rule? The ball can't be anywhere outside the post,
correct,
even if it's above, right? So if it's any part of the ball is on the outside of it,
right,
it sure looked like it. And the delay,
and it went over the goalpost, or the upright, I should say.
And the delay game drove me nuts because you can see, like, Zaire saw it.
It's at 0.
Well, yeah, and you can see Zaire's like, hey, flag. You know, you can see Cam Bynum's doing the same. Yeah. You can see those guys.
Well, like, pre-snap, I mean, you're looking at he's frantically, Stroud is frantically calling for the ball.
It's like, man, that's tough. But there should be like a
red light on the play clock.
Yeah, something, right?
Yeah. Like in the NBA, basketball.
Like a shot clock, right? It should be like a shot clock. I don't know. And we used to get, you know, the first thing I thought about is how we used to get away with it with Phillip Rivers all the time. Phillip would run that thing to 0. Phillip would go to the last second and run that thing to 0 all the time. So yeah, you know, I don't understand why that's why that's a judgment call. You know, when it's a clock.
Right.
Issue.
It's either got time on it or it doesn't.
Yeah, right. It should be.
Well, they say they give it like that extra beat, like it hits 0 and then the beat, and then it's a penalty.
Okay, let's make
which I don't understand.
Let's make the play clock 41 seconds then, because I
totally agree.
That makes 0 sense.
Because
it's all every ref's going to look at it at a different pace and all. You know, it's.
See, I feel like you and I have master's degree in common sense. Like we're solving the problem here. Yeah. Like there's a problem, there doesn't need to be a problem. It's either got 1 second or 0 seconds on the play clock. It's not that hard, or at least it shouldn't be.
Yeah, maybe we've spent too much time on the virtual measurement, so they've
exactly right. Yeah,
they want to show that little computer animation.
That's another thing for sure. Well, the reality of it is, and that's going to be the last time we'll talk about officiating.
We're done.
We're done. You know, I think we're kind of turning the page on where the Colts are at, and then obviously looking ahead to Sunday against the Jacksonville Jaguars. But again, the reality of where this team is at right now, they've lost 3 of their last 4. At one point, not that long ago, they had a 2.5 game lead inside the division. That's gone. That's evaporated here with the Colts kind of stubbing their toe. And all of these teams keep on winning, right? The Jaguars are on a 3-game winning streak. The Texans have won 4 in a row. And so they get a big win over the Colts inside the division. So 3 teams still very much alive for the championship in the AFC South in 2025. And now the Colts get ready to take on the Jaguars in a place where, unfortunately, it's been a house of horrors in North Florida. Everbank Stadium has presented, unfortunately, some of the worst recent memories that this franchise has endured. We don't need to go into that, but that's the reality of the situation. But again, losers of 3 of 4, Jack. You've watched every snap this season. Where is the panic button is right here. Where is your hand on the panic button? Is it out? Is it on the button? Where are you at right now with this team with 5 games to go?
Halfway. I'm not on it.
Okay.
I'm not all the way out. But I don't hate anything, Matt. I don't like the word panic.
Okay.
But it's got to be a sense of urgency.
Okay.
That's a little different.
So let's change it to the urgent button.
The urgent button.
I like that.
The urgent button. Yeah. Hey,
right.
We need a sense of urgency.
Yeah.
Like, come on, man. It's December football. It's another. We're getting another opportunity, right? We had a great opportunity in Kansas City.
Yep.
Didn't go our way. Had a great opportunity to beat the Texans at home, a division game. Didn't go our way. Hey, we're getting another opportunity because we've done so well early in the season, right? And got ourselves a little bit of a head start.
Yeah.
But you got to go beat division teams to win the division. That's how it works. So, hey, we got another opportunity to go down to Jacksonville. So the sense of urgency needs to be high with these guys. And I say sense of urgency with how you're preparing it in the week, right? I don't want a sense of urgency when you're playing. I don't want you to press, but the way you're preparing through the week and the way you're going into the details and making sure you're up to speed on the plan and everyone's on the same page. And so, there's got to be a sense of urgency. There's going to be a sense of urgency anyways. It's December. It's December football, and you got a chance to, make a run at the playoffs. Let's go. Every team's feeling the same way. Let's go play.
And I think the disappointing factor is so high. Again, not to, dwell on last Sunday, but it's the Texans and it's C.J. Stroud, right? He's had some negative things to say about the Colts and, I don't know if they're in jest or not about the city of Indianapolis, but I think Colts fans take that stuff to heart. But the reality is, again, they've lost 4 in a row to the Texans, their chief rival in the division. The Texans have taken from the Colts what the Colts have wanted now for the last 2+ years. The last 4 games have all gone the way of the Texans in this head-to-head series, and the Texans have won those games by a combined 13 points, right? So as a player, take me inside the locker room, Jack. After a game like that in the early stages of this week, I know this is later in the week, and now your entire mindset is on the Jacksonville Jaguars. But, just for the sake of discussion, what is – take me inside that locker room. What is being said? Who needs to speak? And what typically happens after a game like last Sunday against the Texans where you come up short yet again?
Yeah, it's tough, Matt. And, you're in your feelings for a little bit, right? And, you can take that evening to kind of be in a bad mood. And, I know how much this game meant to these guys because, the way it's gone with the Texans here lately, and like you said, they have what you want, right? And, it's been a bunch of tough, close games and tough losses. But again, these are scars that these guys are getting. I'm speaking of the veteran leadership in that locker room, which I think is great. And every scar these guys are getting, they're remembering, right? And they're going to use it as motivation moving forward. And that's what you have to do. You can get in your feelings for Sunday night. And, like I said, I was in a bad mood, letting it affect the rest of my day. You wake up Monday, and then you watch the film with a detail oriented in a way to try and get better so you're ready for the next week. And then it's up to the veteran leadership to make sure, hey, guys, we got to flush that one out. Yeah. Like, let's go. Again, we talked about we have another opportunity, right? We've earned these opportunities by the way we played early in the season. So let's not go mess this up. Let's go play the right way and take advantage of this opportunity. Again, it's going to be the Quentin Nelsons. They've been through these hard losses. It's going to be the Zaire Franklins. DeForest is going to step up and say something. Yeah. These guys are going to get these guys on the same page and get them ready to roll for December football.
I know you're a pretty quiet guy by nature, right? This podcast, we're getting a different side of you because as a player, you were definitely a leader by example, right? You didn't say a whole lot. But later in your career, did you ever feel like hypothetically in an instance like this, did you ever feel like you needed to say something? And what would that have been? In a situation like this?
Yeah, I was definitely a more vocal leader, like in my tight end room and making sure all taking care of my position, make sure our guys, we were on the same page and getting ready to roll. But, if I had to say something to these guys, and I'm sure this is what, the leadership's saying, be like, hey guys, who wouldn't have taken 8-4 going into December football?
Yeah,
like,
let's go.
Flush November out. Who cares? It's over. We can't do anything about it. Let's control what we can control, and that's the present. That's what we're doing today, right? And it's taking it one day at a time, and one practice, one meeting, and I know it sounds like coach speak, but it's real. That's when I feel like I had my most successful games, seasons, is when I really stayed in the moment and focused on one thing at a time. And here we go, 8-4, December football. Great chance, great chances in front of us. Let's go play.
All right, let's get out the chalkboard here. Let's talk about this offense, right, where it's at. First 8 weeks, averaging 33 points per game. Last 4, down to 21 points per game. Just suffered a season-low 16 against the Houston Texans. Just 3 of their last 10 scoring touchdowns inside the red zone. Jonathan Taylor just has 198 rushing yards in the last 3 losses for the Colts. Jack, when you watch the film, what is going on? What is the biggest difference in the Colts offense between now, or I should say the last 4 games versus the first 2 months of the season?
Yeah, thinking back to early in the season and thinking back to this show and the different episodes we had, Matt. I was obsessed with how efficient we were on first down, right? And how we were just we weren't ever in 3rd and long. I don't remember a lot of 3rd and 8 plus, right? Yeah. Early in the season, and that comes from how efficient you are on 1st and 2nd down. So right now, you don't see the efficiency on first down, right? And we're getting stuck in these 3rd and longs, and here comes the pressure. So we got to somehow find a way to get back to who we were early in the season and having more successful plays on the early downs.
And as a player, when you're out there as often as you were, the starting tight end for this team, how hard is it when you're in a funk like this and when you're playing a major pivotal game coming up on Sunday against the Jaguars? How difficult is it to not press?
Yeah. It's the biggest challenge, right? And what you worry about, I'm sure it's what the coaches are worry about the players pressing, worry about themselves pressing. Like, guys, we're fine. Like, we can do this. We've shown what we can do. Mm-hmm. We've shown who this team can be, right? And I'm speaking from the offensive perspective right now, but we just got to get back to it. And that's a coach's job. That's a player's job. It's all getting on the same page. And I speak to the way Chris Ballard has built this locker room, this isn't going to be a team that's going to be pointing fingers and being like, hey, you got to hold up your end of the, it's not that. It's, hey, we're all going to end this together. We're going to talk, and figure out a plan that works for everyone and being on the same page.
All right, then on defense, it's so hard to be critical of that side of the ball in the last two games, right? You're on the road, Arrowhead Stadium, Patrick Mahomes, game goes to overtime. You give up only 23 points.
Yeah.
Home game, C.J. Stroud, I still think he's upper half in the NFL in terms of quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. They only scored 20 points, but it's one of those things where, you look at, the Colts have only given up 3 touchdowns in the last 2 games. The last 2 opponents, I think, are combined 3 for 11, scoring touchdowns in the red zone. But yet the Colts have been sort of ball controlled.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they're not getting off the field. I think the number is the Chiefs and the Texans in the last 2 games have combined for over 77 minutes a time of possession. So the Colts have been deficient minus 27 minutes time of possession almost in the last 2 games. I know one of those games goes into overtime, so it's going to be skewed. But how do you balance the really good winnable point total, right? In modern day NFL, you give up 20 to 23 points, that's a winning number, right? You can win with that number.
Right.
But yet they're giving up big plays. They're not getting off the field. They're not getting those 3 and outs. How do you balance the successful point total versus the things between, the 30s or the 20s that still have to be cleaned up for this defense?
Yeah, that's tough, Matt. And again, like, the red zone defense has been
right.
Awesome.
Credit to them. When they got to make a play, they do.
They do. It's been timely stops, but you got to get off the field because it's just taking away opportunities from the offense, right? There was that point in the Texans game where the Texans had the ball for like a 2-minute drive before half, and then they got the ball after the third quarter, and they went on a really long drive, and it felt like the Colts offense hadn't been.
The Colts only had the ball 3 times in the second half against the Texans.
There you go. That's the opportunities that are getting taken away by the Texans taking up all that time of possession. But yeah, in that point, it felt like the Colts offense hadn't been on the field for like an hour of real time, right? And that's tough for the offense. You want them to get in a rhythm or getting a flow of the game. That's really hard to do when you're sitting there for an hour,
right?
So yeah, it's tough. The defense is again, the defense has been holding up their end of the bargain, but again, there's always ways to improve, and that's getting off the field. The way we're complaining, that's probably not the right word, but the way we're seeing how the Colts aren't being efficient on first down. The defense is giving up a little too much on first down, on their side of the ball, and giving teams, more opportunities on third and manageables. But yeah, credit them for the red zone stops because points are the name of the game, right? You don't want to give up points. So yeah, definitely things that we can improve on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, more on that. The Chiefs and Texans combined to run 162 plays to the Colts 101 last 2 games. The Colts defense has given up 9 drives in the last 2 games that have lasted at least 10 plays, and all of those possessions yielded at least 3 points, right? So I know it's tough. Like, you make a play inside the red zone, you feel good about it. The point total is the end-all, be-all, but you still have to be able to get off the field. And where I want to go with that, because the Colts are going to play one more game without DeForest Buckner. He's eligible to return at least one more game, I should say, because the earliest he can come back is next Sunday against the Seattle Seahawks. So it's kind of bad timing. You would love to have DeForest Buckner in a game like this, not only because it's an AFC game, but it's an AFC South game. It's on the road. It's where it is. It's against the Jaguars, whereas the next week is an NFC team against the Seahawks. But listen, it is what it is. And it's really, again, you talk about deceptive or things that don't really tell the whole story. I looked it up last night. I was blown away by this. The Colts rank 5th in the NFL this year in sacks.
Yeah.
They've got 35 sacks, top 5.
Yeah.
But when you watch it, it's like, Stroud had too much time. Mm-hmm. I know at times you're only rushing 3 against Patrick Mahomes, but he had too much time in that game. Where do you stand with the Colts pass rush, specifically in the last stretch here without DeForest Buckner inside the lineup?
Yeah, Matt, I felt the same way. Watching this game, it felt like Stroud was able to buy time too often. Again, in some of those, it was just rushing 3 and, and we were dropping 8, and especially in the red zone when you're trying to, you hold a team out in the red zone, that's kind of a good recipe for it is to drop 8. So yeah, you miss a guy like DeForest, because he not only the pressures and the sacks that he produces, but the attention he deserves and the attention he gets is going to free up guys, more often on the edge. And so yeah, definitely missing a guy like DeForest, and not only in the pass rush, but in the run game too. I think that's been a huge hole that teams are trying to expose with DeForest not in there, but. Yeah, I think the pass rush knows they got to do more, and trying to find a way to get more pressure without having to blitz, right? And fifth in sacks, again, I'm kind of surprised by that stat too, but that has to that's some credit to the coverage guys too, and some of these sacks have come from you call them coverage sacks, so definitely want more from the pass rush because you see it on the Colts offense when you get a rush and it makes that guy just trying to make a decision a little quicker. It can really cause problems for the offense. So yeah, definitely want to see more.
And it's a very diverse pass rush for the Colts. They play a lot of guys.
A lot of rotation.
Right, a lot of rotation. I think the number is, I don't have it written down here, but I think off the top of my head, the Colts have 9 players with at least 2 sacks.
Yeah.
Right, and so Latu has 6 sacks. Kwity Paye's numbers are rising a little bit, but you just want to see more of those like first wave sacks, as Rick Venturi likes to call them, like top of the drop. Like as soon as that quarterback plants at the top of his drop, you want to see him under pressure more at the beginning of his progressions down the field looking to throw the ball.
Yeah, just a playoff for everybody, because even if it's not a sack and you force a throwaway or you get a hit,
it dirts the ball.
He's thinking about it, and then the next snap he's drifting a little bit the opposite direction in his drop, just by instinct. So you'd like 2 or 3 of those a game where someone's just winning quickly would be a big help for the defense and when what we're talking about and getting off the field a little quicker.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's double back and go back to the offense. Talk about Daniel Jones. Mm-hmm. You were a guy that played with a ton of pain, things that never showed up on the injury report. I mean, everybody does, right, in the NFL. Everybody plays with stuff that really doesn't get reported. But Daniel Jones, in this case, is reportedly playing with a fibula injury, but still playing at a very high level. On Sunday, though, he had just 1 pass attempt outside of the pocket. I think it was that little mini rollout that he had, that mini boot on the touchdown pass to Tyler Warren, which was really good to see. But we didn't see him scramble. We didn't see him boot as often as we have in recent past. And then the Colts, going back to that first major threat of a scoring drive, 4th and 1 at the 9. Here comes Tyler Warren to take that snap under center and run a quarterback sneak rather than Daniel Jones. So are you concerned about Daniel Jones's, I'm going to call it in quotes, situational limitations that he might be playing with at the moment because of his fibula?
Yeah, I am a little bit, honestly, and I think that might play into a little bit of, the efficiency on first downs has been tough, because of, we're seeing backer run through, we're seeing loaded boxes on Jonathan Taylor. And how do we negate that early in the season? It was a lot of play action, rollout, hit and pit on a little flat route, or, Tyler Warren sliding across it, little easy completion. So, Daniel Jones, I mean, first off, what a tough son of a what. Like, I mean, to go out there and be playing with the way he's playing, and I think he played great.
And if he couldn't play, he wouldn't be playing. The Colts wouldn't do that.
No, he wouldn't do that to his teammates either, right? He wouldn't do that, and he's playing well, right? I think he played well overall on Sunday. But yeah, it's tough. It's definitely a bit of a concern that that's a big part of his game. So when that's limited, it makes it tough. So hopefully he's getting a little better, right? I think he's coming out of the games pretty unscathed, I hope, and he doesn't seem to be, you never saw like a change to his gait, throughout the game or anything like that. So hopefully he's improving week by week, even though he's out there playing and continue to get himself better. But yeah, again, what a tough dude, man, and being out there for his guys and still delivering. And I thought he played well Sunday.
But is there any substance to what we saw last week, or is it all just sort of like coincidental because of how the Texans were playing the Colts? They were really collapsing the pocket. We talk about the quarterback scrambles or lack thereof. There really weren't, going back and watching the game and reliving the game, there weren't a ton of moments and opportunities for him to do that.
No, I don't think there was opportunities for him to scramble. But, yeah, maybe there would have been a couple more rollouts in the game plan, I think, if he's fully healthy, right? And again, like the one we saw was a touchdown to Tyler Warren. And again, we saw that a lot early in the season. And again, hopefully he's getting better week in, week out. I know he's working with the trainers like crazy, and we have a great training staff that'll get him right. And again, but what a tough dude to be out there competing with his guys and putting, doing a good job. He really is, and played well Sunday.
All right, we're going to talk about the curse of Jacksonville coming up. But before we do that, I'm sorry. But I do want to highlight one other guy within this offense. All right, I wrote it down to make sure we spent time talking about Alec Pierce.
Yeah.
What a game he had, right? He's not going to blow the fantasy football owners away. I mean, he didn't have like 150 yards receiving, 78 yards, 4 catches, all of them gained at least 15 yards. Touchdown in the back left corner of the end zone. 2 guys draped all over him. What a throw by Daniel Jones, putting it up for where only his guy can go up and get it. And that's a catch that not many guys in the NFL can make. That's how stinking good Alec Pierce has become, the growth that he has shown. For you, you know more about this than anybody. What are the specific areas where you've seen Alec Pierce really elevate his game and become more than just a what some people have labeled him coming into the season as a stereotypical one-trick pony, a 9-route go route guy in the sideline, go up and get it. He's way more than that.
What a stud, man! He just plays football the right way. Going to his touchdown. His release at the line of scrimmage, he made the corner almost fall down again, and that's not just a guy just turning out and running, right? He gives him a move. So a go route's not just a go route, right? You got to work a release, and he had a great release, and he made a heck of a catch on an in route where he had to jump up and get it. But he looks great coming in and out of his cuts. Again, early in his career, could he have made those cuts? But this is a guy that's worked really hard, and I know Reggie was the best at it. No one could run a comeback route like Reggie Wayne.
Yeah.
So I know he's working hard with Reggie, and this is a guy that just, every single day he shows up the right way, shows up as the same guy and works his tail off, and it's showing on the field on Sunday. But I was so hyped when they threw that go route, to him for the touchdown, because when teams are pressuring you so much, you got to make them pay, right? And they're playing sticky coverage on the outside. Okay, you want to play sticky coverage? Go guard Alec Pierce, right? And that was a good play to kind of hopefully try and back them off a little bit and make teams more hesitant to come up and try and pressure us and press our receivers. But yeah, Pierce is a stud, man. He's fun to watch play football.
But that's a great point though, because when the Colts are seeing as much pressure as they are, and I know when you have blitzes coming in your face, it's tough to see.
Yeah.
It's tough to anticipate. And it's also you have to have the ability to step into your throw and have a launching point and a follow through. You have to have room to follow through on your throw. But just generally speaking, how important is Alec Pierce outside the numbers? To be able to get him the ball in those situations when the Colts are seeing as much pressure and as many blitzes as they are here
it's
lately.
Huge. There should be 5 go balls thrown to Pierce again, in my opinion, right? With how much pressure we're seeing on these third downs and even on early downs, just giving him a shot to kind of back him off. But again, the touchdown was huge. He drew the DPI on third and 19 or something like that, something crazy.
Not sure if that's a catchable ball.
No, but then there was another one late that could have been called too.
That's right.
And they threw him another one.
But that's how bad the officiating was.
Right.
It went both ways. To be fair, it wasn't good, but it went both ways.
Yeah.
Right.
If you're sitting, the guy in front row might have caught that ball.
Yeah.
But taking those shots are huge, man. And backing these guys off, you got to make people pay, and that's what the Colts. I know they know this. I'm not telling them anything they don't know, but you got to make people pay if they're going to keep bringing pressure, right? And it just takes 2 plays or one, just making guys pay. It's catching a ball and breaking a tackle and going. We got to make them pay, and Pierce is a great weapon to have. When teams are trying to do that to us.
Just listening to you talk was like how different was the blitz plan by the Texans compared to that of the Chiefs? When you go back and watch it,
it wasn't much different, honestly. I think the Texans, saw what the Chiefs did and had success with, and came in and tried to do something kind of similar. The Texans don't pressure a lot. Yeah. I didn't look up the stats or anything.
It was under 30.
Yeah,
30%.
On the season or on Sunday?
On the season.
Yeah, on the season.
Coming into the game.
Yeah, and I bet they're way above that on Sunday, and more in line with what the Chiefs did the week before, and especially on third down. And even on the early downs, I don't even know if they'll go down as pressures, but teams are running backers through. They're trying to you run a backer through to negate a double team by your O lineman to stop the run game, right? And trying to get them off their double teams. So the linebackers are running through to try and stop our run game, and it's just it's what the Chiefs showed, and then you saw the Texans doing the same thing, and it's tough to negate, and you got to negate it. You got to make teams pay if they're going to be that aggressive against you, and I know the Colts know this, but it's finding ways to setting up screen passes, or throwing the go route to Pierce, or downs creating separation underneath, and getting in stacks, and there's all kinds of fun ways to do it, but and we just got to make that's how you stop this this pressure craze that everyone's going to do against us.
It's a frenzy right
now, until we show we can stop it, right?
Yeah.
And produce
and
a big
gash
play.
it.
Yeah, and gash it, right?
And a high point total.
Yes, you got to score. Break a tackle and score.
Right.
Get a completion. Break a tackle and score. It sounds simple, but it's tough to do when guys are in your face. And again, we're going to find a plan to beat it. Again, to look at a glass half full, we're getting looks at it, right? We're getting all these reps at all this pressure that we're going to figure it out, right? We're professional football players. We're going to figure out how we're going to beat this, and we're going to make these guys pay.
And I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask you anyways, just for the sake of the audience. How do you rep this stuff in practice, right? Because you have one really – because late in the season, Shane Steichen is really sort of mindful of where you're at in terms of your body. So Wednesday now is not the – traditional early in the season practice where you're in full pads and it's thud. It's never full go, but now you're having a walkthrough on Wednesdays, where Thursday now is kind of like your big day of physical practice. How do you rep this stuff in practice? The quarterback's still wearing the red jersey. It's non-contact. How do you simulate the live full go pressures that these guys are seeing every single week in practice, when practice is kind of, for lack of a better term, kind of watered down in terms of physicality?
Yeah, you have blitz periods, and the blitz periods come through third down periods. They come through. You just have straight up blitz periods, and you're repping it like crazy. When we're doing special teams as a team, the O-line's always off to the side, walking through their blitz pickups and walkthroughs. They're doing extra, and during meetings they're doing extra. You get so many reps to making sure your communication is on the same page, because you don't need a lot of physical reps at this point in the season. As you're saying, Matt, that's just stupid, honestly, because you're going to get guys hurt, and these guys are hitting plenty on Sundays, right? So we don't need more of that. But even when you're in helmets, you have these little shell pads on, right? And you're going pretty much full speed. It's not the same physicality, but you're seeing the blitzes full speed, and Daniel's seeing them full speed, and the receivers are feeling what the timing should be for them, and our scout D's got to give us great looks and figuring out ways to show what Jacksonville is going to do. And again, it's going to be a copycat of what you've seen from the Chiefs and the Texans, and so you got to have a plan going into Sunday.
Yeah, that's great stuff, man. I appreciate you talking about that. That's really good stuff that I think most fans don't really realize or know. Just the concepts and the logistics of getting ready for these big games late in the season. And speaking of that, boy, oh boy, we got a monster coming up on Sunday. Colts and Jaguars, Everbank Stadium. We know the drill. You're tired of talking about it. You're hearing it. We're tired of talking about it. The Colts have lost 9 in a row on the road in Jacksonville. Technically, it's 10 straight road losses for the Colts against the Jaguars. You throw in a 2016 game in London in the mix there, but it's been a house of horrors at Everbank Stadium. Both teams are 8-4. First place is on the line inside the AFC South. Jack, answer this question, because now you're a fan. Now you're emotionally invested, right? Now you don't have like the tunnel vision of a player anymore, right? You get lost in the minutia. You're just thinking about Sunday over and over and over all week long. This is the biggest regular season game for the Colts since when? Was it 2021 Week 18? Was it 2023 Week 18 when you're in against the Texans? Week 15 last year against the Broncos, when that game was such a big game, in terms of the playoff swing. Answer the question, fill in the blank. Biggest game for the Colts since blank.
Yeah, I would say the 2023 win in your end game is what comes to mind.
Come on.
The Broncos game, yes, but this is a division. We're still trying to win the division.
And the curse is still intact.
And the curse. All right, we already snapped one curse, right? We snapped
That's what I'm saying.
The opening week 1 win streak is now at 1, so we're going the other way. But so why not snap this too, Matt?
Yeah.
Golly, I have a hard time even talking about Everbank Stadium. A lot of bad memories there. But hey, we got the chance here, right?
You were what, like 2 and you won your first 2 personally.
Yeah. You know what I did, Matt? Yesterday, I went and looked at the stats from the last time we won down there in 2014.
All right.
Andrew had like 370 yards.
Yep.
4 touchdowns. We threw it to 12 different people.
It was like 55-10 or something.
44-17.
Okay, yeah.
44-17. And I just remember we'll never lose down here. This is what we do down in Jacksonville, right? My first 2 years.
It's sunny. It's great.
It's sunny. We come down here, get a quick win. I get to play a lot on offense. This is a lot of fun.
Oh, boy. That's what you get
for
thinking like that.
How the tables have turned.
That's right, buddy.
But no, it's, again, this is a big game, man. It's December football, division football. Let's go. And we can sit here, like you said, Matt, think about Sunday all week. But the good thing about the players is they get stuck back into their routine, right? And they get stuck into, doing what they need to do to get ready for the game. And, you don't feel all that that maybe the fans feel through the week.
Well, one of the things that I looked up during this streak, I think one of the big common denominators is turnovers. The Colts have been killed by turnovers historically on the road during this 9-game losing skid. By the way, the 9-game winning streak for the Jaguars over the Colts at home is their longest home winning streak over any opponent in their franchise's history.
That's not surprising.
Obviously, right? That goes without saying. But you look at this series here, the Colts have been outscored by 148 points in those 9 losses. They have lost 6 games by at least 15, but the Colts are minus 13 in the turnover margin in those 9 games, and they've lost the turnover battle in 7 of 9. So it's really not that hard. If you take care of the football, you give yourself a much better chance, especially against this defense that's still pretty good. They're top 5 in overall defense and stopping the run as well.
Yeah, that's football. I don't care what game you're playing.
Right.
You take care of the football, you have a much better chance to win. I don't know what the percentages are, but if you're +2 in the turnover battle, I think it's you win 80% of the games or something. I remember coaches always showing that on the in the team meetings or things like that. But you got to take care of the football, right? And the Colts have done a good job of that. They had the one game in Pittsburgh where it didn't really go.
They've lost the last 2 games by winning the turnover.
Yeah, right. And
how rare is that?
That is very rare. That is very rare. Take care of the football. The curse is the curse is over, man. Let's go do it.
But isn't the curse fascinating, though?
It's silly.
Just to kind of look back at it objectively. It's fascinating because,
it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make any sense because Everbank Stadium, it's not like Foxborough or Lambeau. All due respect.
Yeah.
Okay? It's not all that historically an intimidating place to play. They got good fans, just like every fan base. They got their diehards and their people that show up. But, some of these losses, I don't mean to open up bad scars there, Jack Doyle, but some of these losses, in this time, the Jaguars have had some of the worst teams in the NFL, and the Colts haven't been able to negotiate those squads.
That's what doesn't make sense about it, Matt. Is that it like you said,
you've had 2-win teams and 4-win teams.
The Jaguars have, they've had some good seasons in that stretch, but there's been seasons where they're like you said, 2 wins, 1 win.
Right.
They were 1 win going into that game in 21.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense. So it's time to just end it and let's just stop talking about it.
I'm with you.
And let's go get it done on
Sunday. All right, we brought it up for the sake of discussion.
Yeah,
We've done our journalistic integrity right there. We're not going to dodge the bad topics, so there you go. But we have to end on a more positive note. So that's what we do right here. If you're new to the podcast, we always have fun to wrap up the show. We call it a segment called You Don't Know Jack. We get to know Jack Doyle a little bit better. We take off the pads and the helmets and find out more about Jack from a personality standpoint. And I had fun putting this one together. All right, you saw it in the rundown, so you're ready to go. You're locked and loaded. And by the way, if you ever have any questions on You Don't Know Jack that you want to give us, express your personality a little bit more, just let us know. But in the meantime, I'm going to ask you this question, and you, the audience, you think about what your answer would be on this as well. But here's your question this week, Jack Doyle, on You Do Not Know Jack. What would be your first question after waking up being cryogenically frozen after 100 years? Like Austin Powers. Remember, he wakes up, it's like 50 years later. It's like the late 90s. And he comes out, and he's like completely out of place. So, Jack Doyle, how would you handle waking up after being put on mute or the pause button for 100 years later? What would be your first questions? How would you get your bearings about you?
Okay, yeah, my first question. So my first thought was Austin Powers, and it's like, I have to go take a pee, right? that was my first thought when I saw the question. What would
Hit
be
the can.
In the can? Yeah. What would be my? That's an all-time scene. All-time scene. What would be my first question? It would probably, I'd probably be pretty hungry, and I'd be like, hey, where's a good, where can I get some good pizza?
Yeah. Is pizza still a thing?
Yeah. Like, what are we doing here? But then, I'd get into like, I guess I go, meet my descendants and go meet some, I don't know what that
How many great grandkids do I have?
Yeah. Great grandkids, go see what, if they're handling themselves all right and all that fun stuff. But I would, my first instinct was to be like, hey, how's the food now? Has food changed? I don't know what's wrong.
I am starving.
I would be starving. You haven't ate in 100 years, Matt. You'd be starving. It's a interesting thought. And you start thinking about that. It's like, golly, what would the world look like?
What's it going to look like in 100 years?
Yeah, I can't even do math.
No question.
It's it is weird to think about, Matt.
I'd want to know how many Super Bowls the Colts won.
There you go.
Right?
Matt, yeah.
What's our record?
Still rolling.
Have we beaten the curse in Jacksonville? Unfortunately, I need some closure to this one, right?
I got frozen today. So, they say yes, the curse was
They
snapped.
might be talking about, like, Jacksonville doesn't have a team anymore. What are you talking about?
The curse was snapped in 2025. You just missed it, Matt.
Wait a minute.
We got frozen on Saturday.
Yeah, I got frozen on Thursday. The game was Sunday.
You just missed it.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, but I'm sure we're going to have flying cars and, people aren't going to use cell phones anymore. We're going to have like computer chips in our brain. The internet's just going to be up
like
here.
Siri would just like be in your head. Like
that's what
call
I'm saying.
Matt Taylor,
That's
and
it.
my head will start just ringing.
You don't need FaceTime anymore. There's just going to be like a screen that just.
I don't think I want to be here.
It's kind of depressing.
It is
I kind of like these face-to-face
interactions,
live podcasts that we do in 2025. Right?
I'm hoping we can like start going the other way somehow, some way. But
do you think we've reached our? We have opened up a can of worms.
Yeah, we have.
Do you think we have reached our zenith when it comes to social media?
Yes, I do.
Really?
I hope so.
I hope so too.
Maybe that's just an optimistic. I'm pretty an optimistic guy. Maybe that's just my.
Hopefully,
way.
in 10 years, we don't have like this dependence on constantly updating our lives on social media and videos and likes and analytics and things like that. Right?
Yeah, there's gonna be. You don't want to say something's gonna happen, but like. Something's got to wake people up to that for it to actually happen.
Boy, we're getting deep, aren't we?
We are getting deep.
Whoa. I did not intend for this to happen.
I think I forgot the cameras were still on. But who knows, Matt? Hopefully we can get back to personal, the way it used to be. I know you're a kind of a historic guy, and you're a man of the 80s probably more so.
Old soul.
You're born in the wrong generation. I feel the same about myself. So maybe. Wishful thinking.
I like it.
Wishful thinking.
I would want to know in 100 years what my Netflix password is so I can still log in. I'm sure that won't be a thing anymore.
Yeah, how much do you think it's gone up?
Yeah.
What is it now?
Yeah. YouTube TV is like $2,000 a month.
They add $1 every year. It's going to be pretty expensive.
How many seasons of Survivor are we on 100 years from now, right? It's still going. Well done, man. Good
that
job.
was awesome.
I
Thanks,
appreciate
Matt.
you right there. Jack Doyle this week on the Jack Doyle Podcast. Hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving as we transition now into the month of December and a huge game on Sunday coming up for the Colts. Colts and Jaguars. We'll break it all down coming up next week as we continue on here in the late stages of the 2025 season for the Colts. For Jack Doyle, I'm Matt Taylor. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening here on the Colts Podcast channel.